Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second session of the World Bank and IRAP Helping Save Lives in Africa webinar series. Thanks for joining this webinar. Last session, we had 500 attendees, very enthusiastic and audience, and we hope to have the same attendance today. So my name is Alessandra Francois. I am the Training and Accreditation Coordinator at IRAP, and I'll be your moderator today. Housekeeping for this session. We'll have our session is planned to last 90 minutes, and all attendees are muted on this session. But we welcome your questions on our chat. So our presenters will make a few stops during the presentation, and I'll read your questions for them. So you can see the tab, the questions tab on your control panel. You can post your questions there at any time during this presentation. And this session is being recorded. We'll post the video and the presentation on Schoology tomorrow. If you haven't registered on Schoology yet, please, you have your instructions on how to do that on the webinar reminder email. So if we don't answer your questions today, we'll post the answers on Schoology on the chat, the welcome chat on Monday. We are also preparing the answers for the previous session, the first session, and we'll post there on Monday for you. And this webinar series has 4 sessions. Today we'll talk about Introduction to ViDA. And we have 2 presenters. We have Tauya Ado Ashong, the pillar leader for road safety at Africa Transport Policy Program, the World Bank. Hi, Tauya. Welcome.
Good morning, Alexandra. Good morning, everybody. Nice to be here. It's a pleasure to be part of this webinar.
Thank you. And we have also Greg Smith, the Global Program Director at IRAP. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Hi, Ali. Hi, everyone. Hi, Tauya. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. Very much looking forward to presenting.
Thank you. And the agenda for today, we'll talk about road safety in Africa, the World Bank perspective, and how to access and explore results in ViDA. Greg will also present how you can do your assignment in the end of this webinar. So I will, to start our webinar session, I will hand over to Tauya, who will present Road Safety in Africa World Bank Perspective. Tauya, the screen and the mic is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here and to be part of this webinar. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how the World Bank looks at road safety and with a specific focus on what's happening in Africa. So what's the World Bank's mission? The mission, our mission has 2 objectives. One is to ending extreme poverty, and the second is promoting shared prosperity. And with these 2 missions, we find out that the agenda of road safety fits well into these because of the fact that road safety can cause a lot of poverty in the countries that we are working on, and improved road safety can actually improve the prosperity of the countries as well. A little bit about the program that I work for. The Africa Transport Policy Program is a program which is based in the World Bank, and what it does is to work with countries in Africa to develop sound road safety policy and to also put into place capacity building programs. We are funded by development partners, donors, and our major donors are the European Commission, the African Development Bank, the Agence Française du Développement, and the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs. Currently, we have a partnership with 42 countries. We also work with the regional economic institutions. We have other development partners, and then we have individual transport professionals, policymakers, and academics as part of our institution. The what we try and do is use our position in the bank as a global institution to leverage knowledge for African clients. And then we also have the advantage of being connected to all the different countries. And so we work as play a key role as a convener and leader of transport policy and advocacy across the continent. Thank you. Next slide, please. So we have been in existence for about 30 years, and we are on what we call our fourth development plan, with 3 primary thematic areas, which are around regional connectivity, sustainable urban mobility and accessibility, and road safety, which I've been handling. We are also looking at doing some more work on resilient road management, and we're getting to issues of climate change and building resilient road systems and finding ways of using the private sector to have sustainable solutions for road maintenance options across the continent. Then, of course, the broader issues around responding to COVID-19, seeing how we can develop capacity in human development, looking at issues of women in transport and low carbon options and digital solutions are things that we also address. So a few facts and figures about Africa. The population is around 1.34 billion. There are 55 member states. Our GDP is 1.6 trillion, but ranging GDP per capita ranges from 800 to 15,000. So there's quite a big disparity in the GDP per capita per countries. Most of our policies and legislative instruments, especially related to road safety, are those which are already established by the United Nations. The African Union also put some in place. The regional economic groupings have the ability to also have policies and legislative instruments around road safety. And of course, what is done at national level and subnational level are other places where policies and legislative instruments around road safety can be put into place. But the main target for Africa is the target, the AUC target is the same as the global target, and that is a 50% reduction of casualties and serious injuries by 2030. If you look at the map that I put out, what I was trying to see is show the percentage change in GDP and also population. And what I was trying to show with this chart is that our GDPs are growing, our populations are growing, and as the economies grow and the populations grow, there will be a resultant increase in the infrastructure, the road infrastructure, and the vehicle population. And therefore, if we don't address the road safety agenda, we will start to see bigger problems than we have even now. Next slide, please. So this is a slide which shows a little bit about the magnitude of the road safety problem in Africa. And bottom line is that the chance of your dying in a road traffic crash depends on where you live, and it's highest in Africa. We are having a road safety crisis which is nearly 3 times that of Europe. We are losing about 300,000 people annually. And this is based on the figures that we have, but this is not necessarily what is actually in place, because there is a lot of underreporting. This translates to about 650 deaths a day. We find that the men are most likely, 3 times more likely to be involved in road traffic crashes than women, and especially in the most productive age group, that's the age group between 15 and 49. 5 countries in Africa, Nigeria, Cameroon, South Africa, and Uganda, together account for about half the road traffic injury across the continent. And so these figures, as I said before, have a huge link and the impact of road safety crash and the worsening poverty in Africa. Next slide. So this slide was just trying to show again what Africans have been doing to try and address the road safety issue. And I'm afraid we still have quite a bit of a way to go. When we look at the sort of key areas around which legislation can be built, we only have 15 countries which have seatbelt laws, 8 which have helmet laws, 8 with speed limit laws. 3 with drink driving, 1 with child restraints, and only 1 with the UN vehicle safety standards, which shows that we still have a very long way to go. The other chart that I was showing was just to show that, in fact, the most vulnerable population in Africa are the children. And you can see that most of the ones who are killed are either pedestrians or they are occupants of cars. And again, it's something which needs to be addressed really quickly and seriously in Africa. Next slide, please. So what are the challenges of road safety in Africa? And I think one of the biggest challenges is that we really don't understand the full extent of what's going on because of the inadequacies of our crash recording systems. It's estimated that we are underreporting by as much as 50%. Very few countries have computerized data systems, and there's a substantial lack of knowledge on what is really happening. These countries, even who have computerized systems, the linkage between the health system and what's happening after the crashes and people go to the hospitals and what the police are recording is not strong. And so we are still having problems linking what the final figures are. Enforcement and implementation of road safety measures are generally weak across the continent. We have road safety, as you know, is a very multi-sectoral issue, and we find that we have very little coordination between government bodies and other departments with responsibilities relating to road safety, both at national or local level. A lot of countries are reported, based on the global status report that the WHO has put out, to have lead agencies which are responsible for road safety. But most of these lead agencies do not have the proper legislation backing them, so they lack empowerment, they do not have enough capacity, and the governance issues are still to be sorted out and addressed. So I just want to go a little bit into the World Bank has been addressing and looking at road safety and how we can support it, the agenda in Africa. And this slide was just to show that 10 years ago, our road safety, our projects with road projects had very little road safety components in them. We would do a project with roads, we would not address road safety. But as the years have gone by, with a decade of action, with our commitment to improving to putting our vision of decreasing poverty and increasing shared prosperity, we've got to a stage now that for the past 5 years, at least the projects in Africa have, all our road projects in Africa do have a road safety component which is being looked at. Next slide, please. And then if you look at the areas that we actually deal with in road safety across the pillars of road safety, you know, pillar 1 is road safety management, 2 is infrastructure, 3 is road users, 4 is vehicles, and 5 is post-crash care. We focus mainly on the issues around road safety management and infrastructure. That is where the bank has its core strength. We do a lot of lending towards roads, so it makes a lot of sense that what we are doing, we make sure that the roads that we are building are not just roads, but they are safe roads. And then we realize that the core of road safety outcomes will rely on a good road safety management system. So we support, again, the lead agencies, we support the data processes, we support development of policies and the building of capacity. So that's where our main focus is across our projects. So I want to talk to you about a couple of areas that the bank is working in, which I think are of key interest and we see as a future in bringing the road safety situation under control. And the first one is the African Road Safety Observatory. This is an institution that we are trying to put together, which is a network of the country's road safety agencies and the road safety data managers, And this, what we are trying to do is to network them together to bring in international and continental cooperation so that we can establish robust road safety data and analysis to positively impact policies for road safety and to influence the main actors responsible for road safety, and to start putting road safety on the map in Africa with an agenda which is led by Africans. Next slide, please. So these, I won't go through them one by one because you will get the slides, but this is just some of the objectives, and it's to collect data, to foster technical assistance, to establish cooperation, to support the creation of a governing body in every country, to monitor progress of road safety, to promote good practice through promoting policies, and to see how we can really assess the factors which will lead to the reduction of serious road injuries across the continent. So we have 6 pillars in the current work plan, and that is developing and establishing this network of the observatory. The second one is to improve the tools and methodologies for the collection of crash data and other safety-related data across the continent. We want to be able to monitor intermediate safety performance indicators, and these are the indicators which have been put up under the global plan. We want to create a common database across Africa, so then we can actually genuinely compare country to country and use that as an opportunity to do a peer-to-peer review and hopefully foster some positive competition. We are also looking at seeing if we can do analysis on topics of joint interest, either at the regional level or countries based on the language divide or similarities in the way they operate. And then we will be publishing periodical reports on road safety. So where are we now? We've established a network of national data coordinators. These are people who are focal points in the country for the collection of road safety data, but not only the collection of road safety data, but they coordinate with the different stakeholders who collect data. So they have to be responsible for being networked to the health sector, to the insurance sector, to the police, and to the transport sector. They have to understand what the analysis of the data means. They have to be able to be in a position to take responsibility for the data which is being provided, and they also have to have that level of authority to clear reports and data which is going to be shared across the continent within the observatory. We are collaborating with WHO. WHO has a platform which they are using to establish and to start collecting data for the new upcoming global status report. But we've also got a place on that platform to collect Africa-specific data. And so what we are hoping to do is that we are making sure that the data is as quality as possible, so that the difference between the WHO estimates that they've been doing and the data we are collecting will be smaller. But we're also using that opportunity to also make sure that we have that stronger link between health and transport in terms of data collection. We've managed to start collecting data from the first report, and we will publish a report very shortly. We are planning a new work plan, which will also tie to the new decade, and then we are conducting capacity building activities. And finally, the other area that I want to talk about is a little bit to do with road safety data and an instrument that the bank is using to support countries on collecting data and improving the quality of data collection at country level. And this instrument is called DRIVER. And DRIVER stands for Data for Road Incident Visualization, Evaluation, and Reporting. This DRIVER is a web-based and open source system for geospatially recording and visualizing road crashes. What we are doing, it's a very simple system, Excel-based, where our client countries can use to start that process of collecting data much more effectively and efficiently. it's a way to support multiple agencies, and it's also a way to standardize terms and definitions for reporting crash data. So we are hoping that multiple countries in Africa will use it, so that we have the standard definitions. And again, so when we are comparing across countries, we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. It's available free on our bank's open source code repository. You can see the link there. It's available wherever OpenStreetMap is available. We find that the fields are variable and easily modifiable, and they can be adapted and maintained by a local developer. And why we are encouraging this is that a lot of the crash data systems which are in existence are often proprietary and sometimes very expensive to maintain after they've been established. So with this system, a local developer can take care of it and manage it on behalf of the country. And so it's possibly likely to be more sustainable. So these are a few of the countries that we've already started working with Driver in Malawi. It's led by the Ministry of Public Works, and it's currently at the testing phase. In Cote d'Ivoire, it's at the procurement stage. And in Sierra Leone, right now they're developing a pilot stage. We're also looking at Zimbabwe and Benin, a couple of other countries, which are very early stages, but we're hoping that in the coming months, we'll have maybe 5, 6 countries in Africa which are looking at this, and we can spread it to more countries. So that's my summary, and I'm happy to answer any questions and expand on anything that you need to know. And thank you for your time and listening to me.
Thanks, Talia. We have a few questions here about your presentation. I will try to pick some of them, and if we don't answer today, we will post the answers on Schoology. But the first question is, in terms of countries with global best practices, safety belt use, etc., is there anything that World Bank can do in terms of incentives or penalties to get more African countries to comply?
Good question. In terms of penalties, I think the World Bank has moved away from penalizing countries. I think one of the issues around sustainability and ownership, as I was talking about in the policy program, is getting the country to understand that this is best for them. So in incentives, yes, I think within the context of our projects, we will provide funding to support improving legislation, to support if we want to do some enforcement programs and capacity building around that. Yes, we will provide the funding for that. Penalties, as I said, we've moved away from that kind of penalty system because our kind of partnership with the country requires that the countries take ownership and not that the bank comes and imposes its will on the country. So we will continue to advocate with the countries, dialogue with them to ensure that the agenda is on road safety is fixed in our dialogue with them. And under the context of projects, we will support road safety audits and any incentive that they need to do the road safety work under the projects. We will continue to support.
So another question that maybe we can give the source of this information to them is, which are the countries that you are currently considering in your program with World Bank?
Sorry, which of the countries?
Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Which are the countries that you are currently considering in your program with World Bank?
The World Bank.
Are they all included, like African countries?
All African countries are members of the World Bank currently. So we work at country level. So what we establish is a country partnership framework with each country, which includes transport and therefore includes road safety. But that's sort of bigger than my agenda. The country partnership framework is worked out between our economists and our country management units. and the government of the country. And so they decide which are the areas that they want the World Bank to support them in. Transport is often a key area. So I can say most of the countries in Africa that we have a World Bank program, we do have a transport program. But again, as I said, it is decided at country level by the countries themselves, and we just agree based on the common partnership that we have on what the specific areas that we fund and finance.
Okay, and then we have another question asking if Nigeria is included in the program. So then it's answered.
Yes,
right?
Nigeria has a strong program, and in fact, the Nigerian Federal Road Safety Corps is the biggest and most established road safety lead agency in Africa. And the World Bank has been consistently financing and supporting the Road Safety Corps in Nigeria for the past 10, 15 years, I would say. And we always use it as an example for other countries, and we've been supporting the Nigeria's ability to sort of work with other African countries in terms of twinning and showing them what they're doing. So no, definitely there's a very strong road safety program in Africa, in Nigeria.
Yes, and many questions about ARSO, the observatory. Is this going to be public? Will people have access and use the information?
Yes, we're trying to establish, currently there's a website, and I will send that information, which is established under the Africa Transport Policy Program website. But we're trying to work with the African Union to create an independent website, which will have all the information. The plan is that the African Union is going to take over the observatory and establish it as one of their sort of specialized agencies, hopefully from the beginning of next year. But before then, I can share with you the links to the information we have available and what information is being shared. We are planning a general assembly of the observatory in the last quarter of this year, and it will probably be open for public participation. And so those informations will be shared as we have them.
Okay, great. So I think you answered another two questions with your explanation. And just one last question. They are asking who is managing the driver instrument or app in Zimbabwe?
We are working, and I'm hoping my colleague Arif is also here, but we are working with the National Road Safety Council. There's a Mr. Clifford Gobo, who is managing it from the Zimbabwe countryside. Then we have a couple of consultants who will be working with some World Bank consultants to do the actual implementation. I think we've had a series of workshops now which have involved the Road Safety Council and the police. And what we are planning on doing is to have a couple more to establish the modus of actually getting the work into place and putting the work on the ground. So it's still at early stages, but we're working with the Road Safety Council, the police, and then some consultants, local consultants.
Thank you, Talia. A very good presentation. We have many questions still for you here. I will suggest that we answer them after the presentation, and then we will post more of your answers on Schoology for them. But many thanks, great presentation, very appropriate for our webinar series and our attendees. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And now we will have our next presentation with Greg Smith, the Global Program Director at IRAP, on how to access and explore results in ViDA. Greg, the screen and the mic is yours.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Tuia, for your presentation. Ali, perhaps if you could jump to the first slide. So in the first part of this webinar, you will have seen quite a few examples about how the IRAP methodology is being used in Africa. In this presentation, what I'm going to do is talk a little about how you access and use some of the functions within our online software, which is called ViDA. So the purpose is to show you how to access that, help you get to know some of the functions in ViDA, and we're going to explore some of the key reports together. I should just say that in this presentation, I'm not going to talk about how we actually produce the star ratings or the related reports and metrics. I'm not going to talk specifically about the methodology. That's going to come in the next webinar next week. So for now, I'm just going to talk about the software itself. So what is ViDA? ViDA, for the Spanish speakers amongst you, will know that ViDA means life in Spanish. It's the IRAP online software. It's a single platform that everyone in the world can access and use for free. It's where we provide the facilities to produce star ratings, safer roads investment plans, fatality estimations, and road attribute reports. There's currently more than 11,000 users around the world, and the address for the software is vida.irap.org. In a moment, I'm going to jump in the software and give you a live demonstration of how it works. The things that I'm going to show you in the software are drawn from the ViDA user guide. So the address was just on the previous slide there. It's at irap.org/specifications. So if you go to that address on the right-hand side, you're going to be able to download the ViDA user guide, plus, in fact, all the other specifications and manuals about the IRAP methodology. Just before I jump into the next or into the live demonstration, I just want to share some background information that I think will be helpful and it'll become clearer as I do the demonstration. So firstly, just a word about the types of accounts that exist within ViDA. There's essentially 4 different account types, and they're listed across the top of this table. So account type number 1 is called reader, then analyst, provisional creator, and then creator. So the reader level is the level that everyone gets automatically when you register to use ViDA for the first time. When you have that level, you're going to be able to use the ViDA demonstrator, the star rating demonstrator. You're going to be able to view standard reports that have been published. You're going to be able to view investment plans and casualty prediction plans as well for reports that or data sets have been published. If you're an analyst, and I'm going to show you how you go about upgrading your account in our demonstration. If you're an analyst, you can see a little bit more detail of those reports, including the download files, which you can extract from ViDA and use in other software. If you're a creator, whether it's provisional or full creator, what it means is that you can start to create data into ViDA. You can start to upload your what we call coding data and start to produce your own star ratings. If you're provisional, you're going to be able to access what we call the sandbox. That's a part of ViDA where you're free to create star ratings for whatever road you want in all sorts of ways. It's a place that you can play with the software and really get to use it and practice. If you're a full creator, you're going to be able to create that data in the official programs, whether it's IRAP or, for example, in EuroRAP. So you need that full creator access in order to make official data and publish data as well. And if you're a creator, you're also going to have the access to the function of the star rating for designs tool, which I'll point to when we're in the demonstration. Next slide, please, Ellie. So just a little bit more background information that it's really important. For the data sets that we create in ViDA, they can be set to 3 different types. It can be set to working, draft, or final. So a working data set might be one where you're just getting started and just putting the data in and really setting the system up and setting up the analysis. The draft stage is, you might set that to where you're at a point where you've done your analysis and you're ready to share it with people and to get feedback and comments. And then the final status can be set when you're sure that your analysis is finished, you've locked in the star ratings and locked in the analysis. So all the data sets you can set to 1 of 3 categories. You just click one more time, Ali. So access to these data sets is managed by the dataset manager, the person who created the data, or a person that they've assigned to be a manager. So they can assign access to these data sets to anyone else who's registered ViDA user. And what they can do is assign access at those different levels or different account types that I talked about in the previous slide. So for example, if I have a draft data set, I might want to share it with 5 other ViDA users. 2 of them I might want to say, I just want to give you reader access just to be able to see the basic reports. But 3 others I might want to give creator access so that they can help to adjust the data and make changes to the data so they can edit the data. So the manager has a lot of flexibility about who they share the data with and how they share those data sets with them. And one more click, Ali. The final data sets, the ones that have been set to final, then become, or then you have an option about considering how you might publish that data. And within that category, the manager can choose from 3 levels of, I guess, visibility of the data. So the manager might say, okay, we've finalized these results, but they're set to private. That means no one who logs into ViDA and anytime will be able to see that that data exists unless I assign access to them. So they'll be essentially private and hidden. The other category, another category is limited access. In that case, someone logging into ViDA at any type of account, they will be able to see a list where that data exists, but they might not have, they won't have access to it, but they can request access. So ViDA has a function where they can send a message to the manager and say, can I please access this data? And then the third type is public. That's where the data is available to everyone. So that's important because when you come into ViDA, you're going to see that there's some data available, but it's not for every country, and more than 100 countries have used the IRAP tools. The data that's in ViDA that's visible to everyone is not for every single country. There's many countries where they say, okay, we want our data to be either private or limited access. So again, the people creating the data have a lot of flexibility about how they share that data or whether they choose to keep it private. So they're just a couple of background things to know about. You can find more information in the user guide, but hopefully it's going to be it's important context for the demonstration that I'm about to do now. So just before I take the reins, Ali, I just want to say that the demonstration I'm going to do is for real data. It's a real project that's live right now as part of the Bloomberg program with the World Bank in Uganda. It's for a design project, in fact, so the results that I'm going to be showing are not for an existing road, they're actually for a design that's going to be built soon in the future. I just want to say very much thank you to the Uganda National Roads Authority, the World Bank and the Global Road Safety Facility for allowing us to use this live data to give this demonstration. So with that, I might ask if I can take control of the system, Ali. Excellent. And Ali, hopefully you can see, you just confirm you can see the ViDA screen?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, great. Okay, so when you come to ViDA, the first thing to do, or to get to ViDA, is to take a look at the URL, which is vida.irap.org. When you get there, you're going to land on a homepage that looks like this. If it's your first time to use ViDA, you're going to need to press the register button. So once you click that, it's going to ask for some basic details, including your email, and it's going to ask you to set up a password. Important thing to know is that it will send you a confirmation email to your email, which you need to reply to before your access is set up. So you do need to look out in your email after you register for that message. It sometimes goes in the spam folder, so take a look in there. Since I've used ViDA many times, I'm going to log in and I'm going to put in my email address, my password, simply press sign in, and that's going to take me to what we call the dashboard, which is just loading up now. So on the dashboard, you're going to see a series of buttons within what we call the ViDA tools area. So I'm coming in at the moment as an analyst. So that account type that I talked about before is an analyst. What I can see is there's a results button. I can request access to results. That's like what I was talking about before. I can request that from data managers that I can access some of the data sets that have been set to limited access. I can try and upgrade or apply to upgrade my account. I can take a look at the star rating demonstrator, and I have a function here which not everyone necessarily will be able to see for user management. The demonstrator button I'm going to not click on, but your assignment later tonight or later today in this session is going to be based on the demonstrator. I will give you an example of how that works shortly. Up on the top of the screen in the black bar, you can see a button that says language. If you click that, you're going to see all the languages that ViDA is currently available in. There's quite a few at the moment. If you click on your own name, you're going to be able to edit your profile. Click on my profile and edit or log out. There's a button here called support as well. This is where you can download the user guide, specifications about IRAP. You can access what we call the ViDA forum, which is a page where you can pose your questions, ask questions, and the ViDA community can help to answer. You can request training and take a look at some video guides. So that's the dashboard of ViDA. What I'm going to do now is click the results button and jump into some real data. So that's just loading up at the moment. While that is, if your internet connection is not keeping up with the demonstration that I'm doing, which can be the case, or if my internet connection is not particularly strong, we will be showing these or making these videos available later as well. So you'll be able to take a look at this video after the session. So what we've got now is we're looking at the results section in ViDA. Across the top, you can see the menu items. We have road data, star ratings, FSI estimation, that means fatality and serious injury estimation, investment plans, and downloads. On the left-hand side, you can see the filters or I guess the menu structure for how we look at the data set. In the main screen, this is where you get the main data and results and reports. So going back over to the left-hand side, looking in the menu, you can see the menu structure. I've pre-selected the IRAP program. Then I've selected IRAP Uganda, the 2020 Big RS Uganda, that's the Bloomberg Global Road Safety Initiative program for Uganda. And then I've clicked on this line here, Kiboko, Yumbe, Moyo design. That's the data set that we're looking at. So this is the design for this road. So earlier when I was talking about setting the access to data sets, this is the data set that I'm looking at. As a reader, you're able to come in and look at data from any of these places as well for data that has been published. A little later, I'm going to show you how to try and request access to other data as well. So to zoom in on the report that we're looking at right now, this is the star rating map for the design for this road. So remember, this is for an actual design, not for the actual road itself. And what you can see is the road is color-coded. So the yellow sections that you can see are 4 stars, orange is 3 stars, there's some green, which is 5 stars, and at the moment in this map, I can't see any 1 or 2 stars, which are black and red color. So you can see the legend over on the right-hand side explains what the colors are. So what this road is basically showing is that this design that we're looking at, for the most part, is 3 stars with some 4 and 5 stars. So what we would say is this design, at least for vehicle occupants, complies with the UN Global Road Safety Performance Target number 3, which encourages all countries to ensure that new designs and new roads achieve at least a 3-star rating. So like I said, this is for the vehicle occupants. Up on the top here on top of the menu, you can see a little picture of a car. That means that we're looking at the vehicle occupant users. For the IRAP assessments, we do look at the 4 different key road user types, so vehicle occupants, motorcyclists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. So I can select a different road user type. Let's select the pedestrians and take a look at the star ratings for the design for that road user type. So hopefully that's coming up on your screen as I'm talking. So here the picture is a little different. You can still see that there's the orange, yellow and green colors, which is the 3, 4 and 5 stars. But particularly at the southern end of the road, there's these long stretches of black color, which is the 1-star sections of road. So they're sections that immediately, if I was involved in this design, I would say, okay, these seem like some sort of priority for improvements in the design for pedestrians. Something else to note is that there's these long sections of grey colour where there's no colour at all. What a grey colour means is that there's no pedestrians expected to be using that section of road, so no star rating will be created. So in this case, for this design, we can see for the vehicle occupants, it's rating 3 stars or better, but there's some sections that are in the 1-star category which are higher risk. So you can see immediately the kind of power there is of doing these star ratings for designs, because it gives you a very clear, measurable, understandable way of relating to the relative risk of the roads. So I should just say the star ratings, they relate to the relative risk of death and serious injury for the different road user types. You can also produce these maps for the motorcyclists and pedestrians. I won't do that now, but you're welcome when you jump into ViDA to test that out and take a look at that yourself. What I do want to do is show you some of the other reports that exist. So I'm going to click on the road data menu, and you can see there's 4 different options that you can look at. I'm going to take a look at what we call the road attribute map. So I'm going to click on that. What this enables us to do is look at maps for each of the different road attributes that have been recorded as part of the IRAP assessment. So in order to produce the star ratings, what we do is record the road attributes every 100 meters along the road that we know influence the likelihood and severity of road crashes happening. So in this case, we will be able to, when the screen loads up, hopefully my internet is going to work. When this loads up, we'll be able to see some maps of showing different attributes such as speed limit, the sidewalk provision, paved shoulder provision, and so forth. These are things that's built into the designs. So hopefully that's going to load up soon. Ali, while that is loading up, if we have a little delay in the internet connection, is there any questions so far?
Yes, we have. There is one question, maybe you would show on the demonstrator, but about what does not applicable mean in the star rating legend. I guess this is when we are using, so just you talk about it on the demonstrator?
Yeah, actually, that's the point I just touched on. So that not applicable, that's the gray lines in that star rating map that you can see right now where there's no color. What that means is that there's no flow of that road user type on that section of road. So where there's no pedestrians expected to be using the roads, no star rating is produced, so it's not applicable. So we only produce the star ratings for the road users that we expect that will be using that section of road. So if you have a road, an expressway, for example, where motorcyclists are not able to use the road, they're restricted, then we wouldn't produce a star rating for the motorcyclists. The whole length would be coded as not applicable.
And is it possible to have access to this data set from Uganda? This is another question.
Excellent question. So this data set is set to limited access. And Rachel, who presented in the previous webinar, she's the manager. So I'm going to show you how to request access to that. And so you'll be able to see. What I suspect Rachel will say is at some point, yes, she'll be happy to share this exact data set, but maybe not while it's actually in progress. But I'll show you how to do that as well. So I am having some trouble. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask one more question while you are, we have many, if you have time with your loading. How much does it require for a road to be 5 stars?
So yeah, that's a good question. The answer is it depends a lot on the situation. There's different ways to lift a road to 5 stars. Firstly, you need to think about what road user you're talking about. Are you talking about all road users or pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcyclists? Each of those have different needs in their design. And then the second question, or a second important question is, what speed are you designing for? Because that has a huge impact on the risk on a road and of course on the star ratings as well. If you want to design a road that's 100 kilometers an hour and achieve 5 stars, the cost is going to be pretty high to build the infrastructure that can accommodate that and accommodate road users safely. If you're designing a road for 40 kilometers an hour, then the cost of the investment is not as high, significantly lower. So yeah, those two questions are really important to know. And then the third point is, like, what is the existing star rating of the road right now? It's probably easier to create a 5-star road out of a 4-star road than it is to start from a 1-star road. So there are a couple of factors to take into account. I'm still trying to get the system to work here, Ali. Seems like it's starting to load up a little better. You know what? I might turn off my my video as well. That might help.
And Greg, they are also asking here if there are sample data sets accessible for study purpose.
Yeah, the data that has been shared can be accessed, but if you have provisional creator access, which I'll show you how to get, you'll be able to create your own data in the sandbox as well. And so yeah, you're free to create data and following the specifications and the methodology. If you really want a specific set of data to play with for research, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us, and we might be able to help you get a data set that you can work with. Now, it's very unfortunate. I don't know what's happening here, why it's not loading.
Do you want to try the demonstrator? And then we have one more session. Maybe you could still do the result.
Well, yeah, the demonstrator is in ViDA, so it's going to be the same challenge.
Okay.
Let me try just one more time.
And more people are asking about the browser that we use. So I think you said already about the Chrome is the best. But they are saying if they could use other types of browser with ViDA.
Yeah, actually, I always use Firefox. I rarely use Chrome. But those two are the ones that work best, definitely. So both I think Firefox particularly is easy to access and get. So I encourage you to use one of those two.
Okay.
Okay, and speaking of that, I might try using Chrome, and let's see if that's going to make a difference.
And also we have Rachel is offering if you want her to run the software for you.
That's a great idea. So let me, yeah, thanks, Rachel. So let me try this. Hopefully you can see that I'm logging in again.
Yes.
Let's see how this goes.
And Greg, I think we'll have quite a few questions around road safety audit and designs. We have one question asking here, is the ViDA platform compatible with most road design softwares?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, actually. So we'll touch on that a little bit more when we talk about the methodology. So the ViDA platform doesn't interface directly with the software, but what you can do, and what we always do, is we do what we call the road attribute coding from the design. So that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what software that design is being produced in, as long as we can see what road attributes, what the road really looks like at each 100 meters along the road. That can then be recorded using the IRAP methodology and then put into the software. So it's really universal in that way. Okay, we seem to have a little bit of luck. I apologize, everyone. It's a presenter's worst nightmare to have the software not work while you're actually doing a presentation, but it seems like it's loading up again right now. Okay, seems like we're back. So what I was hoping to present is the road attribute map. So fingers crossed, everyone. I need all your powers of internet control here and good thinking and well wishes to make this work. Let's see. Seems to be loading. Or perhaps not. So we might try a little backup. So Rachel and or Morgan, I can see Morgan's on the line as well. Would you please be able to test if you're able to access as well?
Hi, Ali and Greg. Morgan Fletcher here from IRAP. I had a similar issue, and I've just noticed that the demonstrator is working. So perhaps you could jump into that while we're resolving these ViDA issues.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to log out here. It's very strange because I was looking at these reports just half an hour ago.
And Rachel is saying that it's working for her.
Okay, I have one idea about how it might work. So let's see if I can get it to do it. Okay, I'm going to log in one more time and I'll log in on my other account, see if we can get that to work. Okay, this hopefully will be third time lucky. Perhaps not. So very sorry about this. Rachel, so Ali, would you mind sharing or asking Rachel to share her screen? And then I'll talk Rachel, if Rachel controls the the software, and I'll talk her through it.
Yeah, she's saying that just failed.
It just failed.
Failed for her, yeah.
Oh, dear me. Okay.
But maybe if it's working for Morgan.
Greg, if I can jump in, ViDA isn't seeming to be working for me either, but the demonstrator is, perhaps because it's an API. So perhaps you could jump into the demonstrator.
Okay. Okay. So we might have to, yeah, we might have to think about how we perhaps reschedule this presentation. So very sorry everyone for that. It's kind of the worst luck ever that's happened. So what I am going to do, like Morgan suggested, is give you a quick look at the star rating demonstrator. This is part of the presentation I was going to give you anyway. So the star rating demonstrator is one of the functions that's within ViDA. And as you might have seen earlier when I was showing the dashboard of ViDA, it's one of the buttons that you can click on. So when you register to ViDA and come in as a reader, this demonstrator is one of the free tools that's available to you anytime. When you come in, what you're going to see is the screen will show the 4 different road user types: vehicles, motorcyclists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. At the top, you're going to see a question mark beside the name, which you can click on. Gives you some information about what the demonstrator is and how it works. Really importantly, it gives you some links in here, particularly to the road attribute coding manual. So this is the manual that defines how we record all of the different road attributes and how do we categorize them. So that's going to be really, really important while you're using the demonstrator. When you come in, what you're going to see is what we call a bunch of standard cross-sections. So they include, for example, a high standard urban cross-section, a low standard rural, motorway, and so forth. These are just some, I guess, standard scenarios that have been preset, which you can use as a basis for beginning how you use the demonstrator. So I'm going to begin with, for example, a low standard rural road. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change that. I'm going to say a basic urban road. So I'm going to select the basic urban road. So at the moment, that basic urban road is giving us 3 stars for vehicles, motorcyclists, 2 stars for pedestrians, and 3 stars for bicyclists. Now, the demonstrator is really great in that it'll tell you why it's getting those star ratings, why that section of road is getting those star ratings. So down here on these tabs, you can see roadside, mid-block, intersections, flow, VRU facilities, which is vulnerable road user facilities and land use, and speeds. So within each one of those tabs is a whole series of road attributes, and for each one of those, there's a whole series of different categories that you can choose. And so for roadsides, we have the roadside distance, which relates to the object on the side of the road. So in this case, it's saying there's a sign, post, or pole on the side of the road that's between 1 and 5 meters away from the edge of the road. In this section, it also talks about the paved shoulders, for example. Within the paved shoulder category, we could choose wide, medium, narrow, or none. So there's all these categories or attributes available within each of these groups. In the mid-block area, for example, it talks about the median type, like what's in the center of the road. That could be a center line, could be a physical median, could be a safety barrier, for example. We also have things like the numbers of lanes, curvature, the skid resistance of the road, so about the pavement, delineation, which is the line marking and signs, is there street lighting, and so forth. In the intersection tabs, you have the chance to choose between, I think, 17 different intersection layouts that might be available, and whether there's channelization, what's the flow of the road or the side road, so how many vehicles are coming on the side road, and the quality, and whether there's property access points. In the flow area, this is where we're talking about the flow of vehicles. So AADT talks about the annual average daily traffic. That's the number of vehicles per day traveling along the road. What percentage of those are motorcyclists? and what's the estimated flow of pedestrians along the road, on each side of the road, and across the road, plus the pedestrian peak hour flow. So that question that we had a little earlier about not applicable on the star rating map, I can show how that works right here. So at the moment, you can see that the bicyclists are 3 stars, and that's that we're saying that the bicycle peak hour flow is between 1 and 5 bicyclists along the road in the peak hour of a day. If I set that to none, then the bicycle star rating is going to be set to not applicable. So if there's no bicyclists, we're not going to produce a star rating. So I'm going to put that back to 1 to 5 so that 3 stars comes back again. In the VRU facilities, the vulnerable road user facilities, and land use, we have the chance to record what type of land use there is at the side of the road. It might be commercial, residential, or a school. We can select whether it's an urban or rural area. But really importantly, we can now select whether there's pedestrian crossing facilities and the quality of those, whether there's sidewalks on the side of the road. Are there facilities for motorized two-wheelers, so motorcycle lanes, for example? Are there facilities for bicyclists, like bicycle lanes? And what provisions are made at the schools? Are there school warning zones or crossing supervisors present? Then the final tab relates to the speeds. So here you can set the speed limit. You can also set whether there's differential speeds. So is there difference in speeds between, for example, trucks and cars and motorcyclists? You can record whether there's traffic calming, and you can adjust the operating speed as well. So that's really important point, is that the operating speed, so basically the real speed that vehicles are traveling along the road, isn't always matching up with the speed limit. Sometimes the operating speed is higher or lower than the speed limit. The way that the star ratings works is that they're based on whatever is higher between the operating speed and the speed limit. So you can see here, for example, the speed limit is set to 60 kilometers an hour and the operating speed is set to 65 kilometers an hour. So the star ratings themselves are based on the higher of these two, which is 65 kilometers per hour. So what you can use the demonstrator for is produce a star rating for a particular location. So if you have a photo of a road, of a location, you can use that to estimate the road attributes and categories and produce a star rating. And that actually, for someone who's been doing this for a little while, can happen very quickly, just in a matter of minutes. And similarly, you can do that for a design. If you know what the road attributes are at a particular location, you can plug them into the demonstrator and produce an estimate of the star rating for that location very quickly. So to give you an example of how the star ratings can change, we can focus in on the speed for a start. So let's say that we knew that there was going to be some police enforcement happening on this road to ensure that the operating speed is no higher than the speed limit. So the 85th percentile speed drops down to 60 kilometers an hour. So you can take a note, again, the 3-star ratings for the motorcyclists, 2-star for pedestrians, and 3 stars for bicyclists. If I change that to 60 kilometers an hour, you can see there's some change. So the cars and the motorcyclists went up to 4 stars. The pedestrians and bicyclists, they still stayed at 2 stars and 3 stars. So I'll just change that back again, just so you can see that change that happened. So before they were 3, 3, 2, 3, and then change it to 60, and they were 4, 4, 2, 3. Now, a really important point is that these little numbers underneath are what we call the star rating scores. So a score of 4.2 for vehicle occupants, 4.8, 45.81 for pedestrians, and 13.3 for the bicyclists. Now, you can see that there's quite a change in some of those just by making a 5-kilometer-hour change. I'll put it back to the way it was before. We had 60 for the pedestrians at 65 kilometers an hour, a score of 60.07. If I change that back to 60 kilometers an hour, it drops down to 45, so about a drop of 15. So that shows you that in percentage terms, there's quite a reduction in risk. So even though that pedestrian star rating is still 2 stars, still in the 2-star band, quite a reduction in the risk of that small change in the speeds. So when we're talking about the IRAP assessments, the star ratings and the star rating scores themselves are actually quite important. We can also test a little about what we might do to else we might do to get that road up to 3 stars or better for the pedestrians. So the first thing you might say is, okay, let's try putting a pedestrian crossing in. So I'm going to go to the pedestrian crossing facility. I'm going to select a, let's say, signalized crossing with a refuge. And I'm going to say it's good quality, adequate quality. And that's going to give us a 3-star rating. So we jumped from a score of 45 right down to 25. So not quite a halving, but nearly a halving in risk. So nearly a halving in risk of death and serious injury because of that move. So you can use this to really explore how changing road attributes affects the star ratings and affects the risk of death and serious injury for different road users. And in fact, that's something that designers all around the world are doing right now to test the effect of potential changes to their designs. So using this tool is exactly what we want you to try out for your assignment in this webinar. So what we might do, Ali, is jump, I guess, to the end of this. And like I said, we might need to discuss how we share a demonstration of using ViDA somehow to make sure it works. So Ali, I might hand back to you for the moment.
Yes, just while you are there,
yeah.
we have a couple of questions that you might want to show there. I don't know, but Mustafa is asking, what is the area type if the passenger side or driver side is C?
So if is C?
Yeah.
Like ocean?
Yes.
Okay. So we really, like, the area type is really very much related to the land use. So imagine if I have this right, you're driving along a road and on the left-hand side of the road, you have an ocean. On the right-hand side, you have commercial areas, you have stores and houses and where people live. So that could still be a town, but it's on the seaside. So you would code that as an urban area or rural town or village. If there was ocean on one side and nothing else on the other side, it was just hills and grass, then you would probably code that as a rural area.
Okay. I think I will ask, we have more questions here.
Okay.
So we have here could you advise if an analyst can use Google Street View imagery for the collection of roadway features instead of on-site inspection?
Yeah, good question. So yes, definitely Google Street View imagery can be used for assessments. Absolutely. So there's certainly been many projects that have taken advantage of that data, which is free. I just say that in order to produce star ratings in ViDA, you do need to be at least a provisional creator, so not an analyst. But yeah, absolutely, you can use Street View imagery. If you have the chance to take what we call the Star Rating Essentials course, which Ali is going to talk about in one of the future webinars, we do in fact use the Street View imagery for that as well.
And can ViDA identify and establish road safety problems of road infrastructure in terms of road safety audit perspective? Yeah,
excellent question. In fact, right now with the Asian Development Bank and also with cooperation with the World Bank on one of the case studies we're working on, we're writing a manual about how road safety audits and IRAP assessments can be put together. So how is the best process to do them together, and how do you really draw on the strengths of each of the processes? So a road safety audit really draws on expertise of the road safety auditor. So it's really that inputs of reflecting someone's experience in road safety. And the IRAP is very much a data and evidence-driven approach. And they each have their strengths, and when put together, we can see that you get very strong outcomes. So, for example, one of the ways to potentially approach this is if you're doing a road safety audit and you're making an audit recommendation table where you're identifying key safety concerns and then recommendations. What you can then do is in that table that you might produce where you list the safety concerns and list the recommendations, you can then use the star rating demonstrator to say what is the star rating for the design situation now, and what would the star rating be if they implemented the recommendation you're making in the road safety audit. So there's a very practical way that you can bring the road safety audit and star ratings together in very often quick way using the star rating demonstrator. So absolutely these two approaches go together really well.
And there is a question here asking if they should star rate the whole country or a specific given road, and how do they select this? Which ones to star rate?
Yeah, excellent question. There's a few different ways to approach this. Generally, we say if you're interested in really taking a broad planning approach and you're thinking about how to manage safety across the entire network, best approach usually is to focus on the roads, like I guess the busiest roads. Like we know, generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, that about half of a country's road deaths are going to be occurring on a small percentage of the actual road length, like maybe 10%. So that 10% is where you would really want to start in the first place, often. So it really means you don't necessarily want to assess all the roads in your country, but focus in on the ones where it's likely that most of the deaths are happening. Often that means you'll start with the national network and then maybe move down to a provincial network after that, and then perhaps within cities, some of the key road networks within cities as well. So that's from a planning perspective. But also, if you know that you're going to be doing major upgrades to a particular road in the future, then doing an assessment of that particular road right away can be really valuable. The sooner that you do the assessment and introduce this safety analysis and data into the planning and design process, the better. It's very much more effective, particularly cost effective, to bring in safety improvements early in the process of planning and early in the process of design, rather than trying to introduce safety improvements late in the design. It can be really difficult, whether it's an IRAP assessment or a road safety audit, to influence the designs once they're already at that detailed design stage. So if you do know of a particular road that's being upgraded, doing the assessment of that road early is really valuable. So you can take a combined approach where you look at a broad planning perspective with a horizon over a decade or more, but also focus in on particular projects that are coming through and focus in on particular roads then.
Just one more question, Greg. We received a few very similar to this one about the hand drive side. So if there is a lot of difference, if we code both sides, and if the coding manual for left and right side hand drive too different.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the assessments are completely adaptable. So we actually talk about the driver side and the passenger side of a road, and there is a separate manual for countries that drive on the left and countries that drive on the right. The coding is done exactly the same way, except that it's flipped over. And for lots of the attributes, we do code both sides of the road. So for example, paved shoulder, we will record or the method records whether the paved shoulder on the passenger side of the road and the driver side. And when I say passenger and driver, we're thinking about if you're sitting in a vehicle driving along the road, the driver side is like if you're in a country where you drive on the right side of the road, the driver side is over to the left, and then the passenger side is everything over to the right. So yeah, we have the coding split by road type, roadside, different roadsides, and yeah, it's perfectly adaptable.
Thank you. And the assignment?
Yeah, so your assignment is going to be to use the star rating demonstrator. What you will need to do is log into ViDA, and if you haven't used it before, register to use ViDA. On the dashboard, you're going to see a button that says the demonstrator. It's going to take you into that screen that I showed just a moment ago. What we would like you to do is produce star ratings for the image that's shown on the screen. And you can see this image by following the link that's showed on the screen as well. And in fact, this is a Google Street View image as well. So you'll be using Google Street View. And when you're in there, if you follow that link, you'll be able to pan around and zoom in and out. What we would like you to do is produce your estimate of the star ratings and star rating scores for this section of road. So when you do your coding, include that intersection that's shown there. So we want you to include the coding of the intersection. Then think about what 3 safety countermeasures could you add. And so then what we want you to do is test those out. So for instance, if you say, oh, I think the line marking could be improved here, you might adjust the line marking in the demonstrator and see what the impact is on the star ratings and the star rating scores. So in fact, we want you to select 3 countermeasures. So pick 3, make the change in the demonstrator and see what the effect is. Ali is going to be able to share with you more details about where you find your assignment in the Schoology platform, where our training courses are. And we appreciate that this might be your very first time using the star rating demonstrator, so we don't expect you to be an absolute expert at the moment. The real key is to get you to experience using it and get a sense of how the star ratings can change as you change the road design. So that's the assignment, Ali.
Thank you, Greg. And where they can find their assignment and the presentation and the video, we are recording this session. We'll post the video. Please make sure you access the course on Schoology. Create a student account and use this access code. This information is also on your registration confirmation email and all the reminders you received. You have until 30th of July to complete the course, and then after completion of all activities, we will issue your certificate. So good luck and enjoy. We have lots of materials as well for you, and probably we will also decide about this other part of the session, the demonstration, where if we'll post a video there or if we'll fit in the next session. So, but you have this information also there. Thanks, Greg, for your presentation. And so today we had, in conclusion, we had the presentation from Tower, mostrando, showing the World Bank mission, the projects, the strategies and challenges in Africa. She also presented the African Road Safety Observatory, the regional forum on road safety data, policies and practices to ensure the protection of human life on the roads of Africa. And the driver, it's a web-based and open source system for geospatially recording and visualizing road crashes. And Greg did the demonstration of ViDA, our online software, free for any country. We received many questions about which countries can access ViDA, and it's free and you can access from anywhere in the world if you have access to a browser. And the software enables you to prepare star ratings, road attribute reports, fatality estimations, and safer roads investment plan. We will talk more about some of these topics again on the next session. We'll present, and Greg will present again the star ratings, and then Morgan, who you heard on the mic as well, he will be talking about safer road investment plans. Mark will present crash risk mapping. This was also a request in your registration form, so we took into consideration your contributions and your motivation to attend this session. And we'll have also, again, Morgan presenting tracking performance over time on our next session. And also an assignment with 10 multiple choice questions. So, but before we end our session today, I just want to say we have two more sessions of this webinar series, and on our last day, it's next Friday, we'll have a very special announcement. So please make sure you attend this session. And I have just a tease here of a video to show you a little bit of what we are going to show you on the last session. So we hope to see you, because it's a very special moment for us as well, and we'll be announcing this benefit to low and lower middle income countries in Africa. So again, your feedback about this session is very important for us. Once we end the webinar, there will be a pop-up screen for you to give your feedback, complete an evaluation form, and contribute for us to improve our webinar series. And finally, thanks everyone for attending our second session of the webinar series, World Bank and IRAP Helping Save Lives in Africa. Thanks for your participation on our chat. Thanks to our presenters, Tawia and Greg, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. Do you want to give your final words for today as well?
Just thank you for having me, and I'm available to answer any questions and follow up on any questions that came, and wishing everybody a pleasant day.
Thank you, Tawia.
Yeah, and I just say thank you very much for everyone for taking the time to join this webinar and the other sessions as well. I'm very sorry that the software didn't work as it was supposed to. It is something very unusual. I haven't actually had that happen before. So like Ali said, we will find a solution and make sure you still get to see the demonstration. And also, if there's any questions that we haven't answered yet, or if you have any more, we'd be very happy to field them. So please do keep them coming in, and we will answer them through the Schoology platform as well. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, and have a great weekend all, and we'll see you again on Tuesday.